Long before the sun rose over the quiet parking lot of a small-town grocery store, a faint sound of a baby's whimper echoed through the cold air, grabbing the attention of Senator John Kennedy as he stepped out of his car. He paused, brow furrowed, noticing a fogged-up window of an old sedan parked near the far edge of the lot. Something felt wrong, painfully wrong. Drawn by instinct more than curiosity, he walked closer and saw a young woman in her 20s, curled up in the driver's seat, clutching her baby to her chest for warmth. The woman rocked gently, whispering lullabies through trembling lips. It wasn't the sight of poverty that stopped him. It was the look of pure exhaustion and love in her eyes. The kind of love that said she was willing to lose everything just so her child wouldn't. John felt his heart tighten. He knew he couldn't walk away from this. Inside the car sat Emily, a once hopeful dreamer whose life had turned upside down in less than a year. She had lost her job after the small restaurant she worked at shut down unexpectedly, and the medical bills from her complicated childbirth had drowned her savings. Emily's parents were gone, and the baby's father had walked out the moment responsibility knocked. For weeks, she slept in shelters, stood in long lines for food, and prayed for a miracle that never came. Now her car was the only roof she could provide for baby Noah. Still, she refused to give up. Despite hunger biting her stomach, despite the cold gripping her bones, she whispered hope into her baby's ear every morning. She believed that God hadn't forgotten her, but faith was all she had left. John gently tapped on the window, startling Emily awake. She panicked for a second, worried someone was going to ask her to leave, as so many people had before. But the moment she met John's eyes, she saw compassion rather than judgment. He spoke softly, asking if everything was all right and if she needed help. Emily hesitated, pride battling with desperation. Eventually, she admitted she had nowhere to go and hadn't eaten properly in days. John listened without interrupting, letting her spill the weight she had carried alone for months. When she apologized for burdening him, he shook his head, insisting kindness was not a burden. His voice was calm, steady, and warm. Emily felt seen for the first time in a long while. He invited Emily and Noah into the nearby cafe for a warm breakfast. The moment the baby giggled after taking his first warm bottle in days, tears streamed down Emily's face. She tried to hide them, but John gently placed a napkin in front of her and told her it was okay to cry. Tears didn't mean weakness, they meant survival. As she ate, he asked about her dreams before life got overwhelming. Emily spoke about wanting to be a nurse, about wanting to help others, the way she once saw nurses help her dying mother. She laughed through her tears, saying those dreams felt like distant stars now. John leaned forward and said one sentence that would change everything. Stars don't disappear. Emily, sometimes we just need someone to bring them closer. After breakfast, John made a few phone calls, not for publicity, not for show, but because he believed in doing the right thing quietly. Within hours, he arranged temporary housing for Emily and Noah in a safe women's shelter that offered warmth, privacy, and counseling. He assured her that this wasn't charity, it was a stepping stone. Emily sobbed into her hands, overwhelmed by the sudden shift of fate. For so long she had been fighting invisible storms alone. Now someone was helping her fight back. For the first time in months, she could put Noah to sleep in a real crib. She whispered a prayer of gratitude, believing that perhaps the miracle she waited for had finally arrived. But the journey wasn't magically easy from that moment. Emily struggled with trauma, fear, and the constant worry that everything could be taken away again. Nights were filled with nightmares of returning to her car, cold and hopeless. She attended counseling offered by the shelter, learning to release her guilt and rebuild her self-worth piece by piece. John checked in on her quietly, encouraging her through handwritten notes and visits that never made the news. "Keep going," one note read. "What you survived would have broken many, but you're still standing." Emily held on to those words like a lifeline. Slowly, she began to believe she was worthy of a better life. With John's help, Emily enrolled in a nursing training program, something she once thought was far beyond her reach. Balancing studies and motherhood wasn't easy, but she showed up every day, driven by a promise she made to herself. Noah would never know the kind of fear she endured. She laughed more often now, her shoulders lighter. She made friends, studied late into the night, and began volunteering at the shelter that once saved her. Each time she walked through those doors, she was reminded that kindness had given her a second chance, and she swore she would give others the same. 2 years passed, and Emily graduated at the top of her class. She secured a job at a local hospital, where she quickly became known for her empathy and ability to comfort even the most anxious patients. The same strength that once kept her warm in a freezing car now made her a beam of hope for others. On her first paycheck, she bought a small but cozy apartment, a home filled with laughter, baby toys, and framed photos of moments that rebuilt her life. She often looked at Noah, now a joyful toddler, and felt pride swell in her heart. They had made it. They had risen from the ashes. One evening, Emily invited John to her new apartment for dinner. As he walked in, Noah ran to him with pure excitement. Emily prepared a simple but heartfelt meal and handed him a framed quote, "When you feel like you're drowning, sometimes all you need is a hand." Under it was a picture of that morning in the car, the day everything changed. John smiled, humbled. He didn't want recognition, but seeing Emily thriving was more rewarding than any award or title. "I didn't save you," he said softly. "You saved yourself. I just reminded you that you could." Emily wiped a tear and nodded. His belief in her had sparked the belief she needed in herself. The story of Emily and John is a reminder that behind every struggling soul is a battle we know nothing about. A single act of kindness, one moment of choosing compassion over judgment, can rewrite someone's entire life. We often wait for grand miracles, but sometimes we are the miracle someone else desperately needs. Emily's journey teaches us that no matter how dark life becomes, hope can return in the most unexpected ways, sometimes disguised as a stranger tapping on a car window. The ending isn't just about help. It's about rising, rebuilding, and returning the light to others. And that is what makes the world a better place, one act of kindness at a time.